What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Care to Elaborate with Taylor and Travarus. Today, we're going to talk about AfroTech in Houston, AfroTech 2024. We're going to give our recaps, talk about some interesting concepts we heard. But before we get there, I want to talk to my co-host, Taylor. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I am coming from AfroTech where it was 80 degrees back to DC where it's 30 degrees. And it's just been an abrupt change. Body confused, feet cold, shivering. It was a little like ice storm or something yesterday, like a wintry mix. And it was just not giving. I'm like, why is it so cold?
Yeah.
So now that I have the heat on, I feel better. But I had to shake back. Like I went from wearing crop tops and short skirts to I need to have on my full length trench coat with that got like the insulated little feathers and stuff in it. And
Right,
so it was
right.
just an abrupt change. My body is just like what?
Yeah,
Right.
temperature went down. You gotta bring out your down jacket. You
I
gotta, you
literally
gotta.
got it's literally right over there. I got the fur around the hood too to really get the
Mhm.
warmth because it's too cold. But
Nah,
Tavares,
it
how are
is.
you?
I am fine. We like you mentioned, we are recovering from Afrotech. We're on the other side of it. I am good, but I think this conversation is going to be really impactful because I'm hearing a lot of chatter about how the conference went from people who were not there. It's like, what is happening? And this is all online, right? And I don't know if I've heard this from people who were actually there or if they were there, some of the incorrect takes they had is because this is their very first conference.
Mm.
So some of the themes that we're going to talk about is about have you been somewhere before? And if you have, then you understand that there's parallels at these places. But if you haven't, you may think that these experiences are exclusive to Black folks. And that's what we're trying to debunk here because we're not going to have people try to tear down or smear some of the communities and places that we've built up for us just for like we can't do that to ourselves. Like, we have enough factors in our way, especially with the the recent election results. What that says about spaces that are exclusively, or at least made exclusively for Black folks. What that mean in the future? But before we get there, let's give a quick recap of what is Afrotech. I'll give my quick spiel, and I would love for you, Taylor, to
Yeah.
take a stab at it too. To me, Afrotech is a one-stop shop for culture, the future, and learning. So you network. It's the biggest conference for Black tech professionals. Like 37,000, I believe, showed up this year in Houston, Texas, and it's a place where you really can get a job. You could network for your next job. You can learn a new skill, at least get the very introductory pieces of it, and like meet a lot of new people. But how would you describe Afrotech?
I think you hit it on the head if I'm being honest. I just think of it as the largest convening of Black professionals in the United States, maybe in the world. Um, but yeah, when I think about it, you really hit it. Networking, job seeking, fun, but also the ability to upskill yourself and level up to where you want to be. I think it's a place to do a little bit of everything. Is what I
Hmm.
think of it like.
Let's talk about the bright sides. Not getting too deep into your experience, but give me two things that you found that was like amazing about being an Afrotech this year.
Number one, definitely the networking. When I tell
Hmm.
you, I met so many people from all industries, like all companies. The way that I was able to meet people in real life who follow me on LinkedIn and make those connections with people who maybe I have seen online or like I know about, but being able to physically introduce myself and cement that connection was so amazing and so important to me. And I think I go to, various conferences from time to time, but never have I seen this many people who I know can leave a positive impact on my life or vice versa. So I definitely think that was number one. And then number two, I think I did learn a few things. I think the
Hmm.
workshops that there were so many workshops where, I mean, there was a lot of opportunity to learn
Right.
various things, especially when it goes to AI and like this new era of
Hmm.
technology. I think they did a pretty good job of having that type of knowledge being shared there. I have my thoughts about how it could have been better, but
Hmm.
I definitely think for people, to your point, who are trying to learn something at more of a surface level, type, that was a good place to start.
Yeah, I would say for me, networking is the top of the list too. It's almost impossible for you to go to a place with a shared interest and it's 37 other people there and you not connect with somebody, right?
Right.
Unintentionally in the elevator. And the way that I know black folks communicate, all you have to do is see something that you like about what they got going on. And that's a conversation starter, right? So as we'll talk about later, you had a connection with somebody that liked what you were wearing, and that started a
Mhm.
conversation that allowed us to get some content. For me, on day one, I had a piece of article of clothes on that got a lot of compliments from men, and it began to spark conversation. So what you wear can also contribute greatly to the networking piece. It's not very hard. The second thing I'll say about the bright spot is how you can merge social and professional
Mm,
seamlessly, right?
valid.
There's a million parties at AfroTech. You got to
A million.
RSVP for this. You have to talk to this person. You got to get this link, Eventbrite, this, that, this, and you got to make sure you're on point. But everybody shows up the next day ready and eager to get work done. If you got to work a booth, if you got your resumes, you want to talk to people, everybody shows up the next day.
This is true.
And this leads me to the first point I wanted to address, which is a lot of online chatter that's talking about Afrotech being more of a dating conference as opposed to a professional one and focusing too much on the social aspect. Before I give my take, I wanted to hear what you had to say about that, Taylor.
Now, I will not lie, y'all. There were some people who walked up to me with the sole purpose of trying to date or whatever they was trying to do. But I think there is, to your point, Travarus, talking about the social aspect of it. Afrotech is not just for that. I think people also are there to make real, genuine connections. And I mean, if there are 35,000 people there, I mean, it's just a higher
Inevitable,
likelihood that you'll find someone who you like. I mean, I don't think I've ever gone anywhere where I've seen 35,000 black people in one space
right?
ever. So I mean, I think if you were to go anywhere and you're around that many people, there's a higher likelihood that you will see someone who you may like. I mean, I think that's just the
Human
nature
nature.
of, yeah, the nature of life. But when I attended, I mean, while there were people who were trying to come up and talk to me in a sexual or romantic way or whatever you want to call it, there were more people who I was talking to that were focused on the professional aspect and,
Mm-hmm.
connecting me to this person at this company or talking about our work experiences. So I feel like, considering that it is a social but also a tech related conference, that the two can mix in a way that it's one is not detrimental to the other, if that makes sense. But I mean, people saying that it focuses too much on the social side. If you need to get a job, you have to be social. So I don't understand why people are saying that it was too social, because in order to go to the next level, you need to have a strong network. And the only way you get a strong network is by being social and talking to other people. So
Yeah, it doesn't make much sense to me because I think the charisma, sometimes you really can't turn it off. Speaking from a male perspective, right?
yeah,
Sometimes if you are a charismatic person and you're actually trying to network, it can come off as flirting if you get a little bit too loose. But that same charisma you need at this booth to talk to a recruiter about what you have and what you are looking to get into. The same charisma you need to have in an interview. Now, I'm not excusing people that are using Afrotech as a springboard to find a wife. I think if that's your mission, and go ahead and
but I mean, also, it's not a bad place to find a wife. Like,
no,
if
it's not. That's
you're
what
in
I don't
tech,
want to.
people got jobs.
I don't want to besmirch that route, but I what I do want to shoot down is the notion that people are only going down here to be social
Yeah,
and
no.
not get the work done. And if you were in that expo hall at any moment, there were thousands of people, and it wasn't people meandering. There was people that was actually talking to people at the booths of these companies. These are the top companies in the world that have sent representatives down there to recruit or to you don't no company has to be there.
True.
Everybody paid a lot of money to be there. Not only attendees, companies paid a bag to be there.
A big bag.
You know what I mean? And in terms of the social aspect, I think, like you said, you have to be social. What I don't want to be the narrative is that that's all that's happening. This girl was like, not a dude asking me to meet in his Airbnb at lunch. Now, that's funny. It might be true, right? It's crazy.
Yeah,
But
people
those
do be
type of
doing that.
tweets, see, those type of tweets carry more than like, yo, got an internship interview with this company on Monday. The more salacious joint carries, and people who aren't in this space get it messed up and think that that's what it's about.
True.
You
That's very
know,
true. The crazy or I don't want to say negative or stuff like that goes way, way, way farther than stuff that is actually good and wholesome.
do you think that AfroTech is really bridging a gap between social and professional accurately, or is there room for growth?
Ooh, this is a good question. I feel like it depends on how you make your AfroTech experience.
Okay.
So I'm going to say it depends on how the person designs their experience, and I'll tell you why. So, if you solely want to go to Afrotech for the social aspect without the professional aspect, that is possible. Some people, I
Mm-hmm.
know people who just flew in and just went to the social things. They did not
Oh,
even
no
go to the
ticket.
right, did not even go to the conference. I met a few people like that. However, there were also the majority of people who flew in to actually go to the conference, go to the
Mm-hmm.
workshops, and also attend social events afterwards as well. So it's truly in how you design your experience, because if you're, going to the conference and then going to the networking events after, then there is a greater balance versus someone who went to the social event last night and it's like, man, I'm not even going to go to the conference for the next 2 days. I'm just going to be outside. So Afrotech gives you the ability to have both, but
Mm-hmm.
you have to make it that way for yourself.
You mentioned that you had some criticism about how the conference could be better. Where do you stand on those things?
Yes. So for people who don't know, Afrotech is a 3-day conference, most of the programming being on the first 2 days. And there are just workshops back to back to back to back from
Mm-hmm.
9 to 5. Now, one thing that you will notice if you were to look at the conference schedule is that a lot of the events are at the same or similar time. So there's like a lot of overlapping. So there may be like 4 or 5 events that run somewhere between 9 and 10. And you have to decide which event makes the most sense for you to go to. Now, when I was at the conference, there were a couple of times when I was at one workshop, but I actually wanted to attend another one as well. And so I'm like either going to have to run from one side of the convention center to the other, or I'm going to have to just give up on my dreams of going to one. And one of the things I think Afrotech could do better at is giving attendees a way to see a recording or watch a live stream or do something. Because if I'm at another event or another workshop and there's something also going on at the convention center or in another room that I want to see, I can't see that. And I paid
Right.
X amount of money to go
A
to the
lot.
conference, a lot, yeah. And I'm missing out on the opportunity to learn solely because stuff is at the same time and it's out of my control. So I definitely think that if Afrotech could find a way to, if I have a corporate badge, maybe you give me a code or something to use so I can
Right.
watch the recording back from this specific workshop. And another thing I'll also say just regarding the workshops is a lot of them were like coffee chats or panels or something, which is great because people can ask questions, get their answers. But I am a visual learner. So if
Mm-hmm.
people are talking about frameworks or strategies or like something that I should use in my work, and there is not a visual aspect on the screen as to what this looks like, or, I, I'm not gonna be confused, but it's gonna be harder for me to take notes. And I just need a visual addition to what y'all are talking about. And I feel like, in my opinion, there weren't many of the workshops that had that. It was just people talking the whole time.
Yeah, visual aids would be really good. So let me back up. Those are two really good suggestions. Having a recording playback for, I guess, a certain tier of badge, but also having some visual aids. Now, this brings me to another something that me and my homeboy talked about after day 3. I have a goal now. I have a passive goal to speak at Afrotech. Not for ego, not for like, oh, this is cross off my list, but I think that there are some things that I heard that I think could be done better, and I feel like I could probably do some of those things better. Also, they don't have any like tracks for program managers or people
No,
who are
that's another
right.
big one.
So they don't have space. They don't have spaces for program, project management, how those verticals end up in tech and what the transferable skills are, right? So that's a whole other thing. But we were talking about speaking at AfroTech, and my man, I won't say his name, but this is my guy. He works on a very, 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 very popular product that a lot of people wear. And
Ah,
on this device, he has a feature that he works on that saves lives, right? And to me, he is the flagship for that product and that feature. And I'm like, bro, you could speak. Now,
oh,
we
for
got to a
sure.
whole conversation about how outside of his company he doesn't necessarily see the impact because he don't think that people care. And I was like, nah, once anybody finds out what you work on and then you're the guy, it's like, what? Hold
Yep.
on. So, and in that, we were talking about how lax it was to just have somebody show up and just speak. Like there was no
Mm,
intimidation. Like I feel like anybody who doesn't have a stigma or a phobia of public speaking could speak at Afrotech with all those people because there's not the requirement for visual aids. When you present at work, you have to have your presentation right. You have to go through multiple iterations. You got to have your slides. They got to be flawless. At Afrotech, it doesn't have to be. You just showing up and speaking from your expertise,
right.
and that's a good thing and a bad thing because anybody could apply to be a speaker. But for people like you, Taylor, who want more concrete, show me your work, give me something that I can remember, I can take a picture of. That's not happening. So it's a high bar to speak at Afrotech, but it's a low bar of execution because they're not required to really bring any aids outside of just their voice.
Very true. And I experienced that in a lot of the workshops I went to. Yeah, it was just so many things where I'm like, this would have been great if y'all just had an extra something to give me, something concrete, something tangible that I can look at. And it was just not there.
So shifting gears a little bit because I want to get to the actual care to elaborate aspect of it in terms of a millennial. Taylor is Gen Z. So speaking about the wide range of ages that are at Afrotech, what unique opportunities do you think younger professionals will get from attending Afrotech?
Definitely visibility with people who are at high levels in a company. And so when I think about, myself as a Gen Z, when I go into work, there's I mean, I tend to talk to senior level executives occasionally out of the need to do my work or, run something by them. But I think at Afrotech there is the greater ability to have that connection with someone just because when everyone is at the conference, they're more open to talking and communicating with others. It's not really that hierarchical way of working that we do have at work where it's like, you need to go through my EA to put some time on my
Right,
calendar.
right.
If
We
I
both we
ran
both here.
into, right, exactly. If I ran into someone who's a senior executive at, I don't know, X company, and they're just out walking around and I want to talk to them, it's a higher likelihood that I can just walk up to them and we can have a conversation.
Right.
And I think that is a big thing that people who are of Gen Z can take advantage of is there is just so much opportunity for you to put yourself out there. And there's really like the stakes are low, the barrier to entry is low, and there's really nothing stopping you other than yourself. So I definitely think that is a huge thing that the younger generation needs to, consider as they go to conferences like this.
Confidence is what I think of when I hear what you mentioned. If you're younger in your career, you may not have gone to a few conferences, and you may not be able to understand what how accessible these people are until you get there. And even when you do get there, you have to have the confidence to go up to speak to someone so because you know them. But it's a amazing opportunity because you're not within your own company. If you see somebody that works at your company that you can't get to, and
Right.
y'all two are insiders in that space. So I think that's a really good point.
Okay, so let's talk about it from the millennial perspective because y'all a little bit older, y'all like 30 to 40, y'all should be or may I mean not should be, but may be established in your area of work. So
Hmm.
for millennials, how do you think that the conference supports you all considering that you all are already in your careers but maybe trying to go to the next level or break into tech or into another, tech adjacent industry?
I think if you're a millennial, and I'm generalizing, I speak for people who are in my age group. I think if you're 35 and above, you have to go to AfroTech with a mission.
Mm.
In turn, like what are you here for? Now, at my age, going to Afrotech, I'm taking away from something else.
Mm.
I have a family,
Mm.
so I'm taking away from my time, my family. So I'm going here. I have to have a more clear mission. But I would still say that going there with a mission, if your intention is to network for security, if you have a job but you don't shake your ground, you want to explore something else, or if you are um, if you need a job, it's a great place to continue to network. Or one of the situations that I was in, I used to live on the West Coast. I'm connecting with people who I haven't seen in a while who can also connect me to their network. So
Mm.
I'm using my connections to see who else is actually hiring or who else has something going on. Because the thing about Afrotech is you don't know what's happening until you get to these tables and talk. Some people aren't hiring, but
That's
see
true.
that QR code. You better scan that QR code and get in that database so they can see your stuff. So you have every opportunity as a millennial to go at it to a big conference like this and make an impact, even if you had 3 conversations that were impactful. At this point in your career, you should know how to follow up. You should know how to continue to link with them on LinkedIn, and finding ways to continue to be present for them. But to be honest, that plan should have been put in action before you get there, which is a
Right.
whole another scenario. But
Be
yeah, I think
proactive.
you got to be proactive. You just have to have you can't be rogue. You can't go rogue. Now I went rogue with my social stuff, like
You did.
because I know so many people that you get locked in on one thing and you figure, I don't feel like going to that, and then you decide, I might want to go here. So, but I went rogue on my social endeavors, but my professional ones, I knew what I was doing.
Mm. Look at you go. See, a planner.
I mean, I'm not as type A as you,
Yeah,
but
you're very much so. You're
I'm
like
a
type
little like
A
A
slash
minus.
B.
a
Yeah, yeah, A
little,
minus. That's a good way of
but
yeah. I would give you a type B plus.
then I say A minus. A minus is a 2.3, no, a 3.3, and a
Yeah,
B
I can
plus
tell
is
you
like
ain't been in school in a while.
it's been a minute. Been a minute, but I got a 4.0 in grad school. That's all that matters.
Oh, look at
You
Travarus
know,
being all smart. That big old head. There's knowledge in there.
it's something in here. Um, do you think that the blending of the professional networks, millennials and Gen Z, breeds a better environment for the professional spaces?
Yes, because you think a little differently than me. I
Mm-hmm.
think a little differently than you. And
Mm-hmm.
together we can solve problems that impact both groups, if not all,
Right.
just age demographic groups and just demographic groups in general. People always say diversity of thought breeds innovation, and that's
Mm-hmm.
true. And I just think that when you have someone else solving a problem that has a different perspective than your own, that being able to see and learn from the perspectives of others just always presents a better outcome, in my own personal opinion. But what do you think?
I think it absolutely does. I think that our podcast is a testament to what can happen when you actually listen to each other. And I learned a lot from you and hearing you talk, because you have to, if you're not evolving, you're dead, right? That's you have to understand what's coming after you, because there are some things that you laid the groundwork for that they are just like, we don't need that. Or there are some things that they're pioneering that you feel, oh, that's dope, right? So we talk a lot about the ways we work and how similar we are, but for millennials, we have our ways of doing things. And
Mm,
if you're not
all day.
connecting with more Gen Zs, you don't know how new things are impacting the workforce that you're going to be in when they begin to get leadership roles. So, absolutely, you got to be able to tap into the generations above you and below you for sure.
Right. And I think Afrotech was just a great mix of that. There weren't only Gen Zs and millennials, but There was Gen X. I don't know if I saw any baby boomers out there. Um,
You might have. There might have been
I
execs. He had the
might have. I
executive
mean,
badge.
who black don't crack. So it's honestly no
Facts.
telling. But in regards to just all the other generations outside of our own, I was able to talk to people from all different types of generations, and I think again it just gave me a perspective that when we all truly come together, that there is such a big difference that can be made. And so I want to hit on that a little bit for a second too. We went to this conference. We were surrounded
Hmm.
by 35,000 plus
Hmm.
black people. And so, in your opinion, how did it feel being surrounded by so many black people, considering that when we came back home and we went to work, it doesn't look like that in the office. But,
Yeah.
it's I was surprised it was 35,000 black people out there, to be honest.
Yeah. It feels warm. It feels the way they describe it is like a homecoming and the first day of school all in the same, right? You have
Mm,
the ability to just it's the warmth of like, my people, right? And the first day of school, I think because sometimes you have to get used to that because you're not used to it anyway. Like when it's the first day of school, you've been to school before, but you had the jitters because you're like, it's newness. But after a couple of hours at Afrotech, you should be basking in the fact that, man, like this is beautiful. And most people are open, right? Now you do have your hierarchical people who are just a little bit too. They're asking about where you work and what you do and all those things, and they'll determine who you are based on those things. But for the most part, it's an incredible experience that I do not take for granted, and that's why I made sure that I had to be there this year because I need that. I need to be recharged and to be inspired by the doctors and the executives and the CEOs and the entrepreneurs, the founders, the VC people. You're in the space, you're rubbing shoulders with millionaires easily,
true, true.
right? So basking in the literal black excellence and breathing in that air is something that I do not take for granted. How you feel about that?
I have never seen that many black people in a singular space, period. I don't think
Hmm.
I'm really trying to think. Maybe other than like, I don't even think around DC I've seen that many black people just together
Mm.
at one time. And so it was just enlightening and heartwarming to be able to walk into a space and feel like that sense of psychological safety.
Yeah.
Because I think at work, it's something that we try to have, but it's just doesn't always exist. If I'm just have to be honest.
Hmm.
But being at Afrotech and being able to learn from other people who look like me, it just really opened my eyes to the possibilities. Because I mean, I knew I've always known the possibilities are there, but to see it in real time, I was like, ain't nothing better than being black.
Facts. Now let's speak about that for a second. We had the opportunity to go down there and shoot some content. Let's talk about us deciding to do content down there and like the idea versus like the execution. Like we decided to go down there and try to get some street interviews, which we will be posting going forward. And with the street interviews comes you have to get people to want to interview, right? Was there any interesting insights that you found from trying to get people to indulge in a podcast they never heard of, but they want to, they open to chatting with us?
It's all in how you come across.
Right.
I think I feel like a lot of podcasts do this nowadays where they go on the street and they talk to people. And I think it's been a while since I've had to do like cold outreach, like I'm walking up to someone asking them to do something for me. Cause that's why I said I would never go into sales. Cause baby, if you don't want to buy the product, then I'm not
Man,
asking again.
it's nothing I can do.
It's nothing I can do. But in this case, it was our product on the line. So I'm like, let me do a little jug and
Mm-hmm.
finesse.
Yep.
In this case, I think the most insightful thing that I pulled out of just going up to people and talking to them randomly is that it's not all in what you have on, but partially it's in like what you have on and how you come
Yep.
across. Because at
Yep.
the end of the day, the people are already going to assume something about you based on how you look. Now, I mean, it's human
Mm-hmm.
nature. We try to like cut out that bias, but people naturally have assumptions before you even open your mouth. They're gonna be like,
Facts.
they already thinking, what is this person coming over
Yep.
here for? And am I going to respond or not? So I think it's all in how, again, presentation. Because if the presentation don't look good, then you don't care about what them people saying.
For sure.
Right. And I think that was what I recognized being at AfroTech. I know you mentioned how people were having conversations with us solely because they liked our outfits.
Hmm.
I knew I was gonna drip or drown for just the purpose of myself, but I did not think that the drip or drown would have other people being more open to talking to me just because they were like, "Oh, I was looking at you already because I liked your outfit." I'm like, "See the
See,
outfit doing the work."
before you continue, I want to preface you hit the jackpot, right? We were interviewing probably five people at that point, and it was your turn to go scour and bring back some folks, and you hit the jackpot. I'll let you take it from there about what jackpot you hit, what made them notice you, what made you notice them. Talk about that.
So, you all, there are two people who I've been following on LinkedIn for a long, 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 long time. And shout out to y'all, the recruiter cousin, Shanae, and Get Me Hired Christy. I have been following them on TikTok and on LinkedIn and just on all the platforms for forever. I've had conversations with Christy just through LinkedIn briefly, but when I was going to talk to people about potentially being interviewed for the podcast, Christy does a good job of truly being her personal brand. So her shirt said,
Mm.
"Get me hired, Christy," and everybody knows her
Couldn't
as,
miss it.
like, you couldn't miss it. It was big ass letters that said, "Get me hired, Christy," and I said, "That's Get Me Hired, Christy." I mean, obviously it
Ain't
was
no
big.
way. Right in front of
Ain't
me.
no way. So she was looking at me because she liked on my outfit, and I was looking at her because I saw the big ass letters on her shirt. And I was like, "Oh my gosh." So then I did my little walk on over there. I'm walking real fast, trying to get over there before someone gets to her before me. And I hit the jackpot because as I was talking to her, she was like, "Oh, I also want to introduce you to Shanae." Shanae, again, hashtag the recruiter cousin. And I was like, "I know Shanae off LinkedIn." So then
It's crazy.
it all came together. So this is why we're telling you all, when you are going somewhere where there are 35,000 people or more, it's easy to get lost in the crowd. When
Yep.
everybody walking around busy, it's truly easy just to just be another person walking by. So you have
Yep.
to be sure of yourself but and confident, but it's also like when you are sure of yourself and confident, make sure you're portraying that potentially in what you're wearing.
For sure. There was one time I was trying to get some interviews. These three women told me nah. Like they basically told me like
They
no.
did tell him though. They was looking
But
at him real crazy.
the thing about that is going back to what we talked about having charisma and not being afraid. I am more likely to talk to somebody about a product that I'm a part of than it is that I am talking about myself. So if I want you to do
Mm,
something for me, I may be like, I'm not sure. But for me to talk about to get people to get on the pod, it's like I don't have no pride in that regard. But as a man, you're probably used to going up to people and talking to them and not going your way. So my ego wasn't bruised at all. I was just like,
yeah.
my the reasoning that they said they didn't want to be a part of it was questionable. But who am I to try to sell you on this? I'm not here to sell you on it. If you either do or you don't. But the conversation, I wanted to make sure I was kind and compassionate and genuine because it's a conference of 35,000 black people. Not to say I'm going to get more, but I want the experience that I had with you because we have something in common to be more about. All right, it's cool.
Mm,
I hope you have a good day. It wasn't any type of malice whatsoever. It's just like, all right. But the ability to just go up to people was not even a second thought for us. We just was like, all right, you got those people, and I'm gonna go grab somebody.
true.
And I know for myself when I dissect it, it's because it's for our podcast. It's for our thing. It's not about Travarus. It's not about Taylor. It's about our company, right? So for me, it was like, nah, we need something. Let's go get it. And if it doesn't work out, then it don't work out. But we're gonna continue to just make it shake.
And I think you hit on something too. You kind of touched on it, but I'll go in a little deeper. Is the idea of feeling like I could do this for me. It was about how it was for a podcast, but in addition, it was also the fact that I was going up to other black people, and
Mm-hmm.
again that sense of safety. Like
Yep.
it's not like I'm going up. Of course, I'm going up to a person I don't know, but because we have that shared identity and we're in this shared safe space, it made it easier for me versus if I'm on the street just walking around going up to a random person.
Yeah, we're under that umbrella of not only are we both black, now all skin folk and kinfolk, let me be clear, but we're under the
True.
umbrella of being black. We're also under the umbrella that we work in tech or affiliated with tech, but we're also under the umbrella of we all are at this conference. So there's so many layers of insulation that we feel. So it's the ability to be more comfortable with going up to strangers and asking them questions. And it was only an experience for 30 seconds to 2 minutes. It
Yeah.
wasn't very long. Wasn't sitting down, but just asking about their experience. Um, about going on the experience. What we didn't share was like how our individual experiences were at AfroTech. So I'll let you go ahead and talk about. Was this your first one?
Yes.
Okay, so tell me about what your maybe your expectations were, and then get into your actual experience.
I really didn't know what to expect. I'm gonna be honest. I made myself a schedule because I'm so type A to the point. If I don't have a plan, I will lose it. I will not.
I'm resisting the urge to make jokes because you
You can
are.
make jokes. That's fine because I'll come. I got something to say back. I can rebuttal. So if you want to say something, we can go tit for tat right now. On I don't mind.
So you got some ammo for me. You got some clips. You got your bullets loaded for me.
The
That's what you're
bullets
trying to
are
say.
loaded. I'll spray the clip. Just let me know what I need to pull the trigger. Y'all know.
Yeah,
Yeah. Now I do not support gun violence, y'all. Let's
this is all figurative.
This is
That's all.
yes, fake. No,
Pow
I do not.
pow.
I
No.
do not own like pew pew. I don't own any weapons. Let me not. Should I not say that? Anyway, but let's keep going. So, regarding my expectation, I have learned in life to have no expectations because every single time I have an expectation of someone or something, it gets fucked up. So I don't have expectations anymore. So I went in just like I'm gonna make my schedule and I'm going to try to stick to this. So my expectation, the sole expectation that I had is I'm going to stick to my schedule. Did I
Hmm.
stick to my schedule? For the most part, yes. Because
Oh,
again,
that's surprising.
right, because if
Not
I
because of
don't,
you, but because of how overwhelming everything is.
yes. But again, me having that schedule is what kept me grounded in the times where there was too much shit going on. So I could
Hmm.
say, okay, if I don't go to this, then okay, I have something else to. I also had an alternative schedule. So if there
Oh
was something,
God, goodness, God damn it!
if there was something in a block where I'm like, I don't want to go to that anymore, it's not going well, there was always something else to fill the gap.
I got to just pause you for a second because
Right.
I just remembered the first episode and we just had conversations about I don't know when I'm successful. I have no idea. How do you go to a conference and have two schedules and think that
Well,
you're
that
those two things relate so like
do they?
yes, how it's about planning and execution. And if you are a decent planner and you execute at a high level with anything, you're going to be successful. You can be a plumber, right?
Well,
Like,
maybe that's why I'm so successful. Because baby, I
oh my
always got a plan.
God.
I'm never going in blind. And normally but the thing I think I do so well with things is because I do have a plan. And once I have a plan, my brain like, yep, we got it.
Yeah, I get it. But I just want you to, I'm going to continue to chip away. By the end of this podcast, whatever, however many years we get it, I guarantee you, you will be affirmed of your abilities and understand what you contribute to the world. Because I'm not going to let you play fake humble either. We're not going
It's
to be.
real humble. It's not fake.
Season one is real humble. Come back in season three to see how Taylor's talking. I just want to invite y'all to the
I mean,
future to
shit. If
see.
I'm getting paid some more, then maybe I won't be. Anyway, let me stop. But okay, so no expectations. The only expectation I had is I'm going to follow my doggone schedule. So when I went in, I will say Afrotech, the conference. How do I? Long story short, considering I had no expectations, there were times where things I considered things went well and where things didn't. If I'm just being honest. So the conference itself, like overall, that kind of met my expectations. I think I already hit on some of the things that I wish could be improved
Hmm.
regarding the actual conference at the convention center. I just, again, I think the only thing I would say is to something that you mentioned before is the lack of programmatic tracks or like non tech related things.
Right.
While I love I don't want to talk about AI all day. And
Right.
I'm not in cybersecurity. So why are we talking about this all day long? That was my main quarrel there because I felt like everything was just AI, cybersecurity. And I understand that these things are important at this point in time, but like tech companies are they're encompassed of multiple different things. And I just think
Right.
AfroTech did not hit on some of those different things. Regarding some of the external networking events, child,
AKA
food,
parties.
aka well, not parties, like not parties all the time though. Like some of them were so like really networking events where they had food and drinks. Like you just sitting down
So
talking.
it's like conference, social situation, then party. Like,
Right.
so that middle ground you're talking about, where it's
I'm
like
talking about the middle ground.
after the conference is over, but 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock ish.
Yes, these are where like corporate companies are sponsoring networking events for you to
Right.
go. Now there will be some drinks because that's just how it works. But
Of
there are
course.
drinks at every
Red
networking
notes.
event I've been to most of the time because they're
Takes
normally
the
at a
edge off, they
bar.
say.
Right, takes yeah, it gives you some liquid courage.
Mm-hmm.
Now, regarding some of these conference adjacent networking events, y'all, I'm gonna need y'all to do better. I'm gonna need y'all to do better. So this is
Say
not
more. Say
like a
more.
hit at Afrotech itself. Some of these conferences or some of these conference adjacent networking events were like in collaboration with Afrotech or with some
Yeah,
of these
yeah.
other tech companies. So it just depends on which ones you were at. But some of them were just not good. I'm gonna be
Mm,
honest. As someone who plans, y'all need to plan better because
right.
there is no reason why I should walk into a networking event as a supposed VIP guest because that's what y'all told me
Mm-hmm.
on email. That's what y'all said. I didn't come up with that. And I walk in 20 minutes, 30 minutes after the event starts. Because I'm in line because y'all letting in people who are non-VIP before me. Okay. And I walk in and the open bar is closed because y'all only spent $2,000 on an open bar. I just will never let that go. Because why would you have an event where you claim you have over 400 RSVPs or so, or like 200 VIP guests for the first 2 hours, and only spend $2,000 on an open bar and the drinks are $15 a piece? That don't make sense.
That's problematic from a few perspectives because I think that the one thing that tech is is uh, focuses on is user experience.
Oh, that was a great way of putting that. Wow.
User experience is the name of the game. How functional is your app? How functional is your website? And how
Mm,
functional is the space you create? If you create the space and you have VIPs who are invited, and those VIPs don't have the experience that is required to talk more about this space, to get more people to be excited about your space, you failed. So it's
yeah.
not about, and that could have been food. If you say that it's going to be pizza and you get there, you ordered 6 pies for 400 people, that's not going to work, man. That's not going to work. So the user experience has to meet the expectations of those who are coming. And with an event, it's all about meeting expectations because dissimilar to you, Taylor, most people have expectations. And when you don't meet those expectations, what do? They go online to threads and
Yes,
Twitter
they be
and
quick.
TikTok quick. So it's really imperative for you as an event planner to think about all the details, but also consider how people are when they enter the space because it's your reputation on the line.
Yes, and because of what I experienced at just a couple of these events, it really truly was a couple of them, like maybe three. Um, because of what I experienced there. I will not be going to those types. I will not be going to those company events again, because there's just no reason why I should be leaving another event to come to your event to be on time, and then it just gives that it's just not prepared. And I would think that considering that tech companies are some of the highest, revenue based companies in the world, that y'all would have some money to spend. And also considering that it was for black people. Is it because I'm black? That's why
Mm.
y'all only gave. Let me
Mm.
stop. Let me
I mean,
stop.
no, no, no.
But
You're going down the right rabbit hole because the contributions could be. You can analyze it a few ways. They mismanaged and they did not provide the experience, but they had the resources to do so,
mm,
or they weren't provided with said resources because it's Afrotech. Right now, if it's the latter, meaning we spent 100 grand on the booth, and then we may have another 14, 15 grand for an event, that's not enough to cover a 400-person event. But you want to have something, you better off not even advertising that it was open bar,
Yeah.
because the experience is going to be sullied, right? So, but sometimes the experience is lacking because the resources weren't hasn't been provided, because the powers that be may not view this space as adequate enough to give the same amount of money to do for Grace Hopper or for DevCon or for uh, any of these really huge conferences that people attend. So it could be twofold. It could be twofold.
This is an interesting way to think about it. See, this is why I love our podcast, because I did not think about that until we just talked about it. So thank you for that perspective. Would love to
Yeah.
hear more about your experience, because this is your third
Second.
Afro? Second
Second.
AfroTech.
Yeah.
Okay.
The last AfroTech I went to was in 2019. This is the last one I had in person before the pandemic.
2019.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, I know that was popping. Oh, I
It
know
was
it was
it
jumping.
was amazing. And the best part about that was, before I talk about 2024, it was in Oakland, and I took a train there. I didn't fly in. So I was home essentially.
Mm.
So took a train to Afrotech, had a good time. I decided at a certain hour, I'm like, I'm going home. I don't got time for this. But this year was great. So this is the first year that I actually decided to be a part of 2 days, like actively going to sessions and things. And I'm out of town, so I want to get my money's worth. I would grade this year's Afrotech about an A minus for me, because I created my experience. I wasn't beholden to who was throwing what party. I'm also at a different place in my life where, like, I don't need
A
all
little
the
old
shits.
dog. He a
It's a
little.
little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit. But I know that I needed to be there in order to kind of get the energy that I need to propel me throughout the year. So uh I the social events that I went to, that I RSVP for a lot. I didn't go to most. I found people that I knew, and then I connected with some strangers. So we just was chopping it up, chilling. Ended up like at this. We ate good. We ate
Where were you eating
good,
at? Oh.
man. We ate good. Like Houston, I'm coming back for the food, bro.
Okay, I
Like,
should have been with you, because I did
yeah, we
not.
ate
I
good.
was
No, no,
struggling.
no, no. You were where you needed to be. The experience that you had, you needed to have that. So
I did.
for me, I got a couple. I got a couple sessions in that I felt like were impactful. One to one about venture capitalists, one about AI, and I thought that those were good for what they were good for. I had the most fun in the expo hall, just talking to people and chatting and connecting with people who work at our company, but I don't see that often.
Mm.
Also connecting with frat brothers that I'm very acquainted with, but like we're in this shared space. So the expo hall was a lot of fun, but overall, I'll say it was an A minus, because I knew what I was getting myself into. I was not overwhelmed. I controlled what I wanted to control. Something I always say is, I want to happen to things. I don't want things to happen to me. I say that with
Oh, I'm gonna
everything.
put that on.
So even with my
Trademark that.
notifications, I need to. Even my notifications on my phone, I don't want all my apps to have push notifications. I want to go check Instagram and let it pop up there. Let me go to you and don't come to me. With Afrotech, Taylor already mentioned it, it could be overwhelming. And if you just go into space without a plan, everything rushes to you. Oh, we got this, we
Mm-hmm.
got that, we got this swag, that swag, this QR code, this session, and you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I already understood how high velocity the space is. That, like, I came in at peace. If I don't make the thing that I thought I was going to make, if I had an idea at 10 a.m. about what I'm going to be doing at 7 p.m. and I don't make that, it's fine. Like, so I wasn't pressed, which
Mm.
allowed me to be at peace, and I could kind of move how I wanted to move. So I had a great experience because I determined what I wanted to do, and my overall goal, to be honest, was to do interviews, and we accomplished that.
We
So
did, and
yeah,
some good ones too.
yeah,
So, Shavaris, based off of what you just said, would that be your tip for someone attending Afrotech for the first time? Like, make a schedule, be prepared. Is that what you would say?
yeah. I think for you, your brain lends to being super organized. My version of that is be aware of what you're getting yourself into, and
Mm.
as aware as you can be. I would literally, like, if you're concerned about, like, it might be overwhelmed, go on YouTube, go on TikTok, search AfroTech from years past. Everything is AfroTech 2022, or AfroTech 2023 or 2024, and see what the site looks like. Sometimes just seeing, like, that's a lot of people. Gotta, you sometimes just seeing it, you realize, oh, it's like that. And better to assume that it's worse than you think in order to be prepared for whatever you got going on. So,
Mm.
for sure. What is
Okay.
your one tip you would say that you want to leave people with?
My one tip, I would say, other than the fact that we talk about it being organized and creating a schedule, is to put yourself out there. I
Yeah.
think, you know, 35,000 people is a lot. And it can be
Mm-hmm.
easy to get lost in the sauce and get lost in the crowd and just be like, I'm just going to go through the motions. I'm not even going to be intentional. And I think on top of having that schedule, it's important for you to be intentional in what you are attending. So if your goal is to network, then maybe you want to say, like, hey, I'm going to go to X amount of events, and my goal is to make genuine connections with 5 people during my couple of days here. Or if you are a job seeker, you're setting goals and being intentional about connecting with recruiters. So maybe your goal there is, I'm going to go to the expo hall and pitch myself to 3 or 4 of my, target companies. So
Mm-hmm.
I think my biggest tip is set goals and to be intentional about them. Make sure they're smart goals, because at the end of the day, it's only
Talk
like a
about it.
3-4 day conference, and there's a lot going on. So there may be a day where you need a break, or there may be a day where you may not be on top of your stuff because you're hungover from yesterday, and that is okay. But just make sure that you are cognizant about your reason for attending, and that you set the goals that are relevant to that.
I'm gonna try to bring a synopsis, and I think I'm trying to draw the most relevant keywords that I think were talked about before we wrap up. Dress to impress.
Number one.
Got to.
Make sure your hair
Um,
laid too.
Facts, and your haircut is proper, because we judgmental a little bit. We
Yeah,
not
black people
not
be
us
talking shit about
not us being careful to elaborate, but us as black folks, we, you know what I mean? Like, you knew you was coming here all year. That's how you pulled up. Bet sounds good, fantastic.
bet.
Number two, I would say, is be curious and be adventurous together.
Mm.
Curious enough to decide, oh, Google's over there. Maybe I should go explore, and be adventurous enough to just talk to someone. You have to suspend your normal self.
Mm.
And for the sake of your future self, suspend your current self in terms of if you have any drawbacks about speaking to people, and the benefit of your future self. You gotta look out for your future self in spaces like that. And the last thing I'll say is drink water.
Oh my goodness.
Drink some water,
Get
bro.
bring some electrolyte packets and
You
AfroTech.
need.
If you listening, y'all need some more water jugs around the convention center, because there's no reason that I should be struggling to find water.
I don't think that Pepsi should be a sponsor for AfroTech. Liquid IV needs to be a sponsor
Yes,
for AfroTech.
they do. For
Liquid
100%.
IV, if you listening, y'all need to connect, because you got to market.
A,
You
a
got to
big one.
market
A big one at that.
Liquid IV, and whatever. Just, it needs to be in the care package. You get your badge and like 2 Liquid IV packets. That's what needs to be in the mix, because otherwise, you know, you should want to have a good time. You should have a good time. There's nothing wrong with having a good time, but your ass got to get up tomorrow.
You gotta get up the next. You gotta be on your Zoom at 10.
You got
Woo.
to.
Get the liquid IV. That's a great suggestion, Travarus. I hope they're listening and they take that, because the way I had to bring my own electrolyte packets and I was chugging. I was chugging.
It's a struggle when, like, hotels, they be stingy with the water bottles. I gotta find a little CVS or convenience store
Mm-hmm.
to grab some water bottles. And like one night, I went to go grab the bottle. I had like a swig left. I was sick.
Oh,
Like, oh my god, I gotta wait until the morning to get some water. But yeah,
you should have
man,
went to the faucet.
I,
I don't even believe in. Sometimes I don't drink faucet water, but you should have went right on over there to the faucet.
it was like I was thankfully I was tired enough to go back to sleep, but Yeah, that was like AfroTech, and y'all need to connect with an electrolyte company to get that going. Or start your own because
That's a word.
you know. Anything else you'd like to elaborate on before we wrap up, Taylor?
I think we hit it on the head today, Travarus. I mean, I had a good time at Afrotech. Will I be attending next year? I'm still trying to decide that because y'all. Also, one thing. Oh, another thing. Last tip I'll say: make sure your finances in order. If your company is not sponsoring you, because child, them expenses will rack up. So if you are
Knock
going and
knock
not
your whole
being
block off.
though it will knock you okay. So if you are going and you are not being sponsored completely by your company, yeah, make sure that you got your money put to the side because Houston is not that walkable, if we're being honest. And
Right.
them Uber Lyft tabs gonna rack up.
They add up. They absolutely do. And what I was going to also mention is we should aspire to be speaking at Afrotech
Do you know how
next
fun it
year
would be to be do an episode like at Afrotech on the stage?
on the stage. I think that we can do it.
So Morgan, if you listening,
Talk to us. You know what I mean? Just get me there and feed me, and, and I'm
okay, all I
fine.
need is the food. I'll even buy my own flight. Just give me the food and the ticket.
Just feed me, right, and
Literally.
give me all access. But we're so glad that we were able to give you all the Afrotech 2024 breakdown. We are not sponsored by Blavity, but Blavity, if you're listening to us, let's chat.
Because we
And
black
because we black, and you know,
and in tech.
Taylor, yeah, we are. With that said, we'll check y'all out next time, and thanks for listening.